Paul and Merle Morgan are discussing their estranged marriage when they witness a murder. As they move to a remote location for safety, more issues about their relationship surface. Paul requests Merle to meet him on the 3-month anniversary of them being separated. He has seen her on the cover of New York Magazine's real estate issue and thinks she looks lovely. He is impressed by what she has done with her business and is desperately trying to win her back. He apologizes for the ice sculpture he sent as a gift, which melted in her house. Being a lawyer, he certainly plans to sue them. Merle knows how to sell houses, and she makes sure to point out all the qualities. A couple argues about whether they need such a big house. When Merle learns the woman is pregnant, she gets excited about how magical the place will be for the baby. Merle shares she doesn't have kids of her own, but is considering adoption. Adam wants to discuss a case with Paul, but he's more concerned about the gift he is planning for Merle. Adam suggests naming a star after her, but Paul wants to make a greater impact. Merle is representing Park Avenue Realty at the National Breast Cancer Foundation. She makes a powerful speech about how everyone can come out stronger from the crisis. When she notices Paul in the crowd, she forgets what she was saying. After fumbling a little, she concludes by claiming she wants everyone's donations. Paul makes some excuses about being there, but admits he is trying to talk to her. When he asks for her schedule, her assistant Jackie informs her about a pedal lunch the next day. Adam knows Paul is busy too, so Merle suggests that Jackie and Adam can discuss the timing. Paul is staying at a hotel, while Merle stays at their apartment. They discuss the little things that used to annoy them about each other. While they're relieved they don't have to deal with them anymore, Paul claims he misses some of it. Jackie is confident she can push her appointment, and asks Adam to do the same for Paul. At the dinner, Paul asks if she likes the gifts he is sending. She wants him to stop, since it's getting too awkward. He promises to do so after his final gift. He has scheduled an appointment for them with Dr. Tobin, who is the best marriage counselor in the city. He kept postponing this meeting when they were still together, but now he's ready. The doctor has also written a book about expectations in a relationship, which Merle has already read. When he keeps agreeing with everything she says, she finds it irritating and wants him to stop trying so hard. Merle has to meet Gerard Rablay after this, and asks Paul to walk with her. He tries to discuss the weather, but she reminds him that he slept with someone else while they were married. He keeps apologizing for being stupid and confused, but he is sure he regrets it, and loves her a lot. She's not sure if she loves him anymore, and loving him a little is not enough for her. As she keeps walking towards her client's building, she thinks it's odd Mr. Rablay is randomly standing in the rain without an umbrella. As she calls out to him, he falls from the building with a knife in his back. Merle screams, but Paul covers her mouth when he notices someone coming from behind. They try to hide, but when the vehicle moves away, they're face to face with the murderer. He tries to shoot them, but they manage to escape when a cab turns up. Marshall Lasky informs them that her client, Gerard Rablay, was an international arms dealer. The FBI was moving in to convict him, so Rablay decided to help them capture Anton Fornsky, a well-known criminal. Lasky thinks Fornsky got Rablay murdered. He thinks they can get to him through the murderer, Vincent. Since the Morgans have seen him, they will act as star witnesses. But Lasky is concerned about their safety and wants to give them 24-hour protection. Since they live separately, Marshall Henderson is assigned to Merle, while Marshall Ferber is told to take care of Paul. As Vincent speaks to his boss about finishing the job, he comes across a magazine issue with Merle's photo. Lasky informs Merle that he's sending someone else to take over from Henderson, who has been there all night. She asks him to hold, since her intercom is ringing. Mike the doorman informs her that a police officer is on his way to her apartment. Merle informs Lasky about this, since she feels his officer has already arrived. But Lasky hasn't sent anyone yet, so they're confused. Vincent reaches her floor dressed as a cop and instantly shoots Henderson. He asks Merle to lock herself inside, but Vincent manages to gun her door down. He still can't get inside, but watches her trying to escape from the window. He moves back and tries to find her from another direction. Ferber finds Paul in the shower and claims it's an emergency. Lasky has checked the apartment's security cameras, and they know Vincent always kept his head down. Henderson is fine since he was wearing his vest, but there's still a threat to their lives. He recommends a witness relocation program for the Morgans. They're shocked and start panicking, because they are not too eager about living in the middle of nowhere. When Lasky mentions a jet, Merle panics more. She is worried that she has a business to run, and she can't just disappear. Lasky has done this before, and knows they can contact relevant people after they reach the safe location. Till the murderer is caught, they're expected to stay in a temporary place till they are shifted to an official site. Merle panics more about the possibility of being there forever, and refuses to leave New York. But Lasky and Paul know if they don't want to lose their lives, this is their only option. She also doesn't want to commit to staying with Paul for life. But Lasky assures her that the temporary location is only for a week, after which separate locations will be arranged for them. Merle starts packing under Marshall King's supervision, but doesn't know what kind of weather to expect where they're going. They hand in their IDs and phones with a lot of reluctance. On the jet, Lasky informs them they're heading to Ray, Wyoming. He gives them their temporary IDs since they're not allowed to reveal their real ones to anyone. They're now the Fosters, who will be living with the sheriff of the town, Marshall Clay Wheeler. Merle is supposed to be Clay's cousin from Chicago, who hasn't seen him in 5 years. Lasky wishes them luck when they land, since he's sure Clay will take good care of them. They find Officer Tom asleep when they enter. When Merle finds posters warning them about grizzly bears in the area, Paul panics and wants to write the instructions down. Clay assures them the posters are all over town. After the introductions, he takes their bags to the car. When Merle politely introduces them, Clay corrects her. He wants them to always stay in character and remember their last names. Since she's cold and they have only packed summer clothes, he offers to take them to Bargain Barn. She has never been to one before and is impressed by how huge it is. They also get excited about how cheap the clothes are. When Paul is buying sprays for the bears, he gets intimidated by a woman testing out her gun. The same woman walks towards them outside the store and introduces herself as Emma Wheeler. She's Paul's wife and the deputy sheriff of Ray. She asks if they hunt, but Merle informs her she's a member of PETA. Emma feels they're very brave and is honored they have been tasked to protect them. Paul is impressed by how modern Ray is, but they're currently in Cody. Ray is 45 miles away, with no facilities like Bargain Barn available. They cross the small town of Ray, but keep moving. The Wheelers live in an even more remote location, since they want to stay away from the hustle and bustle of the town. At their place, Merle tries to be polite about all the animal heads. They're a part of Emma's collection, and she is proud to have shot them herself. They just have one spare room, because they usually have just one witness. 10 years ago, the governor asked Clay to hide someone for a week. Since then, the Wheelers have been doing this every year. But they want Clay to retire now, so Merle and Paul are going to be their last witnesses. Merle explains that they're separated, and claims she is fine with taking the couch. Paul offers to take it too, but she feels she's a lousy sleeper and would do better with the TV there. They just have a bunch of DVDs, but not proper cable. She gets excited when she notices a computer, but there's a code to use the internet and the phone. The Wheelers make it clear how risky it is to contact anyone back in New York. Paul comes to check in on how Merle is doing on the couch. She wants him to know she has noticed how hard he's trying. She wants things to get better between them. But whenever she looks at him, it fills her with regret, and she wants him to suffer. He's willing to help in any way, and apologizes for the mistake he made. Merle wants him to know that she was madly in love with him once. But after the incident, she feels disappointed and like she can't trust him anymore. He understands, and leaves her alone to unpack in his room before sleeping. She tries to entertain herself with a magazine and a movie. In New York, Adam wonders if Jackie has heard about the Morgans. She asks him to keep quiet about their protective custody. While they're arguing, Vincent approaches them in disguise. He claims a friend referred him to Merle and wants her help to find an apartment. She asks him to join her while she asks Adam to move away. As Adam gestures her to call him, Vincent places a bug under Jackie's desk. She explains that Merle is not available for a while. Vincent is determined to wait for her and decides to come back later. He also distracts her and manages to drop another bug in her purse. Merle wakes up to find Emma cooking. She claims she didn't sleep well since it's too quiet. She tries to be polite about the smell of the food, but she's a vegetarian. Paul had trouble sleeping too, and he was hoping for some noise out there, so it would feel like New York. When Merle asks Clay if he has heard from anyone, he asks her to be patient. Paul strikes up a conversation about a photo he saw of Clay's son. Emma informs them that he married a girl from Omaha and moved there. Emma and Clay are going for a round, but ask the Morgans to stay behind, since they don't want them to be noticed. Merle waits for them to leave before freaking out. She's worried about being stuck there forever. She already misses doing the regular New York things. Paul asks her to calm down and reminds her there's nothing they can do about this situation. Since they also don't have access to any devices, Merle starts getting frustrated. They decide to go for a run, but Merle finds it hard to breathe since the air is too clean. She's about to go back into the house when she notices a bear approaching Paul. She knows he's afraid and asks him to stay calm till she gets the poster and spray. She reads out the instructions and asks him to speak to the bear in a soft monotone and avoid eye contact. When she reads out what needs to be done in the worst case, Paul panics more and starts shouting. The bear gets angrier, and as he's closer, she asks him to run. He manages to get inside, but Merle sprays him in the eyes while trying to get the bear. She fills out a form for him at the doctor's office and gives it to Nurse Kelly. She's excited about Merle being from Chicago, since she has always dreamt about it. Dr. Simmons explains that he's the only doctor in town, so they can't get a specialist. But he understands the human body and assures Merle he can figure something out. He makes Paul feel comfortable and takes him to the exam room. Merle looks at some photos of babies and decides to make a call to the Gotham Adoption Agency. She leaves a message for Trish Pinger, informing her that she won't be able to adopt for a while. She claims to be unstable and relocating, and asks her to hold off the process for a bit. Paul's eyes are much better at home, and she informs him about the call to the adoption agency. She explains that she filed for adoption 2 months ago and didn't know how to tell him before. He reminds her of how much he supported her with the doctor appointments and women chanting over his sperm. Adoption was his idea, but things got very intense between them, as she became obsessed with having a baby. She was getting restless with all the hormone injections, and wishes he had been with her. Instead, he flew to Los Angeles for a business meeting and slept with someone. He keeps apologizing for his mistake, but it soon turns into a huge argument. Emma and Clay can hear them fighting, and she wants to help them out. Adam doesn't know what to do without Paul, and is panicking. Jackie feels her situation is worse, since nothing in the firm happens without Muriel. She gets a call from Trish, who informs her about hearing from Muriel. She gets excited and takes down the number she called from. Vincent listens to this conversation, but is frustrated he didn't get to hear a number. Muriel claims to be allergic to horses when the Wheelers take them out, but Paul remembers taking riding lessons when he was young, which Muriel didn't know about. During target practice, Emma expertly shoots all the tins and asks Muriel to try next. Muriel is nervous, but wants to get this over with. As per Emma's instructions, she adjusts the rifle, but she takes her time before she finally shoots. Encouraged by getting it right on her first try, she wants to continue. Paul tries to take the gun from her, but they end up wrestling for it. Clay takes it away and reminds them that it's loaded. He then decides it's Paul's turn and gives it to him. Clay asks him to do exactly what Muriel did, but he injures his shoulder. As Dr. Simmons tends to his shoulder, Muriel brags about how she didn't injure herself. She's proud she did so well at her first try and claims she could use it for work. When she shares that she's a real estate broker, Simmons gets interested and shows her a picture of his mom's house. She thinks it's lovely, but asks him to make some adjustments. She feels like presentation is very important if he wants to sell it. He's impressed with her suggestion and asks for help with the house. Paul finds Emma chopping wood and offers to help. He apologizes for all the screaming around the house, but Emma understands. She and Clay are very happy, but there have been times when they almost called it quits. Clay somehow managed to fix the fights by gifting her cows and a rifle with her name engraved, but she thinks something else worked best for them. She recalls a time they had stopped talking because of a huge argument. Clay then simply asked her out on a date, and things magically worked out at dinner when they talked. He appreciates this advice and knows what he has to do. He finds Muriel outside the house playing with the child. He knows it's strange, but asks her out on a date. He wants a chance to discuss things again, and has done some research on Annette Cafe. He tries to impress her at dinner by insisting he asked for a special table. With Emma's help, he has also downloaded all the common New York noises to help her sleep better at night. Kelly works there too, and claims just nursing is not enough to sustain her. Like most people in town, she also has a third job. She's also an assistant fire chief. On that note, Muriel asks if Kelly can stop the man behind them from smoking. Kelly can't help her this time, since Earl Granger is the owner of the cafe. His wife, Annette, divorced him 10 years ago, and he has kept the name since he didn't want to repaint it. Muriel politely introduces them to him, and learns about his granddaughter Lucy. Earl gets offended when she asks him to blow smoke in a different direction. They get off on the wrong foot when he also learns she's agnostic and a Democrat. When Paul tries to make a funny comment, Earl doesn't like his tone. They find Simmons outside after dinner when they're waiting for Clay and Emma. Simmons knows they're playing poker that night. He asks them to take his truck and return it the next day. Like everyone else in that town, he has kept the keys inside and left the door open, so anyone who needs it can use it. A little way down the road, Muriel realizes they are lost. When Paul turns back, she suddenly wants to discuss the woman he slept with. She's just curious to know why he chose her, out of all the women he usually meets for work. She has Googled her and knows she's very pretty. Paul knows there's no way out of this discussion and cooperates with her. He shares that the woman is reserved and a bit cynical, which makes sense to Muriel. She thinks she understands why he needed to get away from someone loud and nagging, like her, to someone quieter. Paul explains that she has it all wrong, and it meant nothing to him. He had a few drinks and was upset about their relationship. He slept with her, but he didn't enjoy it at all, since he kept feeling guilty the whole time. He clarifies that for him, Muriel is the sexiest and the most exciting woman he has ever been with. When she claims she sort of believes him and laughs, Paul feels relieved and thinks they're making progress. They get closer after this and run around town greeting everyone they know. They spot an actual store too and decide to shop. They find Earl outside, who is looking for a lawyer like Paul. He thinks Lucy will be the next American Idol. Since her dad is sick and her mom is off to the army, Lucy is now his responsibility. He wants to make sure he can take care of her, and wants Paul to draw up a will for him. Muriel thinks it will be great if Paul helps Earl, and leaves them alone so she can freshen up. Emma hosts a bingo night, where Muriel and Paul win and get very excited. Adam thinks Jackie will compromise their safety if she calls the number back, but she asks him to live a little. She calls out the number before typing it on her phone and dials it. Adam doesn't let her complete what she's saying, and kisses her to distract her. She immediately tasers him, but apologizes for the reflex action. Vincent finally gets the number he wanted and feeds it into his phone. Clay and Emma leave for their rooms after game night, and even Paul gets up to leave. Merle keeps staring at his room, and soon knocks on his door. She takes him outside to look at the stars and starts quoting her wedding vows. He remembers being disappointed it was Shakespeare, and not something she wrote herself. He claims to not remember his own vows, but repeats every word by heart when she's distracted. He remembers what the priest said after that. She insists he can kiss the bride, and it takes a while for him to understand what she means. He kisses her before she has the chance to change her mind, and picks her up before heading to the room. The next morning, Lasky informs Clay that Merle and Paul's separate accommodations are now ready at the official site. Vincent calls the doctor's office and learns from Kelly that they are in Ray, Wyoming. When they're out for a run, Paul admits he was trying to postpone the adoption since he didn't know if he could be a good father. She reminds him of an incident with the mouse in their house. She remembers he could have just swept him away, but kept waiting for hours so the mouse could get into the shoebox. That made her realize he will be a great father. He thanks her and wants to discuss the issue about their separate sites. She has been thinking about it too, and decides to talk to him after he finishes his jog. Merle is trying to find Emma, who is gone for another hour. She joins Clay while he's milking his cow, since she really wants to discuss her relationship with Paul. She's not sure what they will decide, because she still hasn't told him she slept with someone when they were separated. Clay hopes she can talk to Emma about this, but Merle is very confused. He asks her to grab a bucket and help him while she's there. He asks her to be gentle with the cow, but she takes it as good advice about how she can be gentle with Paul while breaking the news. He feels it applies in their situation too, but wants her to know how different men and women are. As Lucy sings beautifully that night, Paul takes Merle for a dance. As they're having fun, she shares that she wants them to stay together at the official site. He's excited, till she also casually mentions about the person she slept with. Paul doesn't know how to react, so she starts explaining the details. She clarifies that it only happened once, since she was feeling rejected and hurt. He claims it's fine, since she made a decision when they were separated. But he starts acting very distant after that. On Ray Rodeo Day, Vincent stops Lucy and asks her about Merle and Paul. She recognizes them as the Fosters and gives him the directions for the Wheeler house. Merle wakes up alone and finds Paul chopping wood angrily. She knows his silence isn't helping them and wants to discuss what happened. She shares that his name was Larry and he was recently divorced. Paul still doesn't want details and thinks while he made a mistake, hers sounds more like revenge. She feels offended he thinks that way, and they start fighting again. When they refuse to go to the rodeo, Emma tries to intervene. She knows they're a good couple because they can still laugh with each other despite their issues. Merle admits she finds Paul very funny, but feels like they have to manage expectations to make this work. Clay disagrees and asks them to stop making excuses and find a way to make it work. Emma is shocked he decided to give some advice. Before leaving, she informs them of their plans to pick them up after the rodeo. As Vincent gets closer to their place, Paul is packing in his room. Vincent gets startled because of a bear and fires a random shot. Merle identifies him, but they panic since they can't use the phone to call the Wheelers. Merle brings out a rifle and starts shooting at him, but she's out of bullets quickly. Vincent shoots back and breaks their window, so Paul suggests they can escape from the back door. Vincent watches them leave on a horse and gets into his own car to chase them. They find their way to the rodeo and spot Clay in the box. As they start walking towards him, Vincent arrives there too and tries to blend in with the cowboy hat. But Merle spots him, and they plan how to reach Clay without Vincent noticing them. As Clay announces that a bull is approaching the ring, the Morgans try to hide under a costume. Merle's sneezing attracts the bull, and it charges towards them with full force. The bull soon hits them and injures Merle's leg. But Vincent is still nearby, so Paul gets an idea and asks Merle to stay put. He approaches Vincent with the spray, but accidentally sprays himself in a hurry. Before Vincent can react, Emma finds them, and everyone crowds around him to keep him from hurting Paul. Clay expertly throws something at Vincent's head, which knocks him out. Merle is mad he risked his life for her, since she doesn't want to imagine a life without him. Paul feels the same way, and knows he wanted to protect her in that moment. They realize they're meant to be together, and she feels like she can trust him again. As Vincent gets arrested, the Morgans thank the Wheelers for their hospitality. Emma is much happier, since because of them, Clay will get to keep his job. 6 months later, they land in New York after adopting a baby girl. Jackie and Adam are now in a relationship, but she still bosses him around. When Paul informs Adam on call that he's taking the next day off, Adam is relieved, since he had a prior commitment with Jackie. Paul wants to give them some older couple advice, and jokes about sending them to Ray for the weekend. Merle gets an idea, and they decide to name their daughter Ray. They have moved into a new apartment, since Merle slept with Larry in their previous one. But they can joke about it now and are happier than before, especially since Merle is expecting a baby too.